All right, welcome back. This is lesson 26 of Conquering Algebra 2. Two concepts in this lesson. In the later part of this lesson, we're going to talk about overlapping triangles and how to use those proportions to find the missing sides of triangles. And then in this one, we're going to talk about factoring trinomials. Very important thing to remember when you're factoring trinomials is you always have to have your problem set up in descending order of the exponents. So right now, these two are in the wrong spots. We need to flip those two, and then we can start getting to work. So the way this is going to look is x squared minus 5x plus 6. And by factoring, what we're going to end up doing is we are going to end up with two sets of parentheses, and we're reverse engineering what we call FOIL. When we have FOIL, we have two binomials that are being multiplied to each other, and we end up multiplying the first terms, the outside terms, the inside terms, and then the last terms. Well, now we are starting with the trinomial, and we're working backwards to get into two binomials. So the way I always start is I always know there's only one way to get x squared when dealing with this, and that is x times x. So the next step that I need to do is I need to find what are my factors of 6. I have 1 times 6, and then I have 2 times 3. And because this is a positive sign, that means I'm going to be adding these numbers together, which will give me 7 and 5. And given that our middle term is -5, that means I am going to pick these two terms. Notice I have not put any signs there yet, and that's very important. Because 6 is positive, that means when I multiply these two numbers, they have to have the same sign. Either it's +2 and +3, or it's -2 and -3. And the way I decide which one is by what b is. And because this is negative, these both have to be subtraction. And so we're gonna FOIL this out just to prove that we did it right. And so we have x squared minus 3x minus 2x plus 6. We're going to add our like terms and simplify. So we get x squared minus 5x plus 6, which is what we started with. So we know we did this right. So this part right here, this is my answer. This is what I would write on my answer sheet minus the purple lines. All right, so let's do some more practice. Okay, our next example brings me to a point that we should always keep in mind. When we are doing this, we always want our highest degree to be positive. So since there is a negative here, we need to factor out a negative from all three terms. So this is going to look like negative, then x squared. So if I'm factoring out a negative, that's going to change both of these signs. So minus 5x minus 14. And we're going to keep going. And the only way we can get x squared is to do x times x. And then I need to find out what are my factors of 14. And I have 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. And since it says -14, that means I am subtracting my two numbers. So that gives me 13 and 5. And since our middle term says -5, I'm going to go with 2 and 7. But notice what I still have not done yet. I still have not assigned signs to these two numbers. So when I'm in multiplying, I'm going to get -14. The only way that can happen is if one of these numbers is a positive and the other one is a negative. And when I subtract these two numbers, I need to get -7. That means my higher number, sorry, I get -5. That means my higher number needs to be negative. And the way that we can double check this is I'm not going to multiply the whole thing out. I'm just going to get us our two middle terms. So this would be -7x and then plus 2x, which gives me -5x. And that's what we have right here. We already know x times x will be x squared, and +2 times -7 will be -14. So the middle term, these two right here, are outside and are inside. Those are the ones that we need to double check. It's not a bad idea as you're working out all these problems to do this little step right here to make sure you're getting your middle term correct. So that's all good. So this part right here, including this front negative, this is all my answer. All right, let's do a couple more practice problems. Okay, so this problem will bring in another concept, and that is before I start trying to put my trinomial into two binomials, I need to always try to take out the greatest common factor if there is one. And we see that this is not in descending order, so we're going to go ahead and fix that. And by putting it in descending order, I can notice usually at this phase, x squared is always going to have a coefficient of 1. So I need to factor out -3 from all three parts. And I'm left with x squared minus 2x minus 8. Because remember, we're dividing all of these by -3. So now that I have it like this, I need to put this into two binomials. And we get x and x. Our factors of 8 are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. It's -8, which means we are subtracting these. So I get 7 and 2. My middle term is 2, so I'm going to pick these two terms. And since this sign is a negative, that means that 4 will get the negative. So this is my answer. I'm going to go ahead and double check that I got my middle terms correct. So -4 times x is -4x, and then 2 times x is +2x. When I add those together, I get -2x, which is my middle term, so we're good. All right, last example that we're gonna do on this concept. First step is I need to get this in descending order. So we're gonna lead off with -2x to the 4th plus 12x cubed plus 32x squared. Now we're going to take out our greatest common factor before we start trying to put this into a trinomial. And I notice with this one, not only is -2 in all of these, but also x squared. All three of these terms have at least x squared, so I'm going to take that out. So -2x squared, and then here all I'm left with is x squared, minus 12 divided by 2 is 6, x cubed divided by x squared is just x, minus 32 divided by 2 is 16, and then x squared divided by x squared is itself, it's just 1. So now that we have taken out our greatest common factor, this is something that I can put into a trinomial, or into two binomials. I can work with this. So -2x squared, 2 sets of parentheses, x times x, and we need to get our factors of 16. So we have 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. It's -16, so I'm subtracting these. And this one gives me 0, this one gives me 6, and 15. Our middle term is 6, so I'm going to go with 2 and 8. And because 6 is a negative, 8 gets the sign. All right, and there we go. We are all done. And so that's it. What really helps you get this down is just a lot of practice. And your book will give you plenty of practice with factoring trinomials before they start to include more steps to these problems. But just practice really helps you learn that routine of what to look for, what signs to follow when we're multiplying, when we're adding. And so that helps a lot. So let's take a look at our next concept. The second concept in this lesson is overlapping right triangles. And yes, we could use proportions to solve these missing sides, but because they are a right triangle, another thing that we can do is we can use Pythagorean theorem. So ignoring the larger triangle and just focusing on the smaller one right now, I know that I have 6 and 4 for my legs, and A is my hypotenuse. So I can say 4 squared plus 6 squared equals A squared. So that's me 16 plus 36 equals A squared, which will be 52 equals A squared. Got square root both sides. So the square root of 52 equals A. This can be simplified. I can take out the 4, so this would be 2 root 13. So there, we've already found one of our missing sides. I can use proportions as well to help me find B. And then I can use, once I find B, I can use Pythagorean theorem to find part C. So let's solve for B first. So with this problem, I'm going to put the numbers for my smaller triangle on top and the numbers for my larger triangle on the bottom. And we know that we have 6 and 2 square root 13. And then for the larger triangle, it's not 4, it's 6 plus 4, so 10 and then 2 square root 13 plus b. Okay, and so now we're gonna cross multiply and try to solve for b. So this will be 20 square root 13 equals, and then 6 is getting distributed to both parts. So 12 square root 13 plus 6b. And I'm gonna move this to the other side, so minus 12 square root 13. So that's gone, and we get 6b. And then we have 8 square root 13. We're gonna divide by 6. So b equals, and these can reduce to 4 and 3. So 4 square root 13 over 3. All right. And the way that we find c is because I'm dealing with square roots here, I'm not gonna try to do Pythagorean theorem to find c. I wanna leave those roots alone. So I'm gonna go with proportions. So we have our smaller measures over our larger ones. And so I have 6 over 10 compared to 4 over c. We're gonna cross multiply, and we get 40 over 6, which reduces to 20 over 3, and we found our missing side. The big thing that they want you to understand in this one is why we needed to do Pythagorean theorem to find a, and it's because both of these did not give us any numbers to work with. They were both unknowns, and they were different unknowns, so we couldn't have set up a proportional statement to find the measure for a. So that's why we had to do Pythagorean theorem. So that's it. All right, and that's it for lesson 26. I hope that this was a great refresher for you, because factoring trinomials we've been doing since Algebra 1. So I hope that that helped you guys, and then to learn that shortcut using Pythagorean theorem to help solve overlapping right triangles. If you guys have questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it was helpful, and subscribe so you can get new videos. I'll see you guys in class.